things you can address us. So a fence was constructed and it was 4 to 5 inches closer to the property line than what is allowed in the zoning law. And we have to give them, they're asking for, so I'd be about a 33% relief. Probably a little bit more than that. Your name, what? I forgot from last month. You're?
Eileen O'Shaughnessy.
Okay. So the board members might have some questions. The public hearing's closed, but if, you know, any of the 2 members that weren't here last month, they have some questions they might ask you. And obviously nothing has changed from last month.
This is the applicant. This is the neighbor. So on Google, this is the applicant.
I think this was all your scrawling from last month.
Yeah, but we were gonna fill out 2 of them because there was 2.
Yeah, the height of the fence and then.
Yeah, one for height and then one for the setback. Because I ended up having to make a mess because we were
They're
going.
gonna cross off your mask, and they wanna cross off your real rating. So this one needs to go to setback, and that one's for the front, or for the hood. Not that, the other one. Steve has it.
Gotta refresh me, what were they asking for the height of the fence though? I thought we changed that
4.
last.
4 inches.
From 48 to 52.
Well, not this one.
Average.
And how far off the line is the fence now?
This is the applicant. Or this is
It's 7 to 8 inches off the line where it's supposed to be 12.
So, yeah, it does vary from 5 to 4, 4 to 5 inches. So you go to 5.5 over 12, it's probably like 55-60%.
That's why I don't like the height. Enough said.
Yeah, no, I think you look at them and you gotta figure it out in the building code, you know, and then apply.
Yeah,
I searched
right.
Yeah.
After looking at it again. Yeah. Sorry.
So we actually have 2 variances. We have the height of the fence. Let's do the first one where it's how the closest to the property line, how far out first, and then we'll deal with the height of the fence.
What was stated at the hearing last month? Did anybody speak for or against it?
The homeowner whose property that is infringing on, they did not like it at all.
They were here.
So their driveway sits right on the property line.
Did they the applicant or they the neighbor?
The neighbor. So the neighbor's driveway sits right on the property line.
Okay.
Fence is already in, supposed to be a foot back, is only 7 to 8 inches back.
So did they do a self-install or did they hire somebody who did it without a permit?
No, put it in themselves. Didn't know permit, whatever. Home.
Which 5 inches isn't gonna make, a foot isn't gonna make any difference for snow though.
No, and I also said that I don't have any sympathy for that because he's arguing about something that isn't on his property. His argument is that the fence makes it inconvenient for him to move snow off of his property onto the
We
neighbor's
shouldn't be
property.
putting it on the neighbor's property anyways.
Exactly.
He should be.
Did
pushing
ask
it
him
out.
specifically because the reason for the applicant to put it up was they've got a dilapidated barn there, and there's dogs and kids from the neighbor that are getting into the barn, and so for the safety of everyone involved, they put the fence up to stop that migration. Neighbor actually said he was fine with the fence there for that reason, but it was too close to the property, and that's where we said.
Now, I just drove by it today, and his driveway and the fence are this far apart.
So either the driveway doesn't go to the property line, or the fence is more than a foot off the property line.
Right.
So has anybody provided us with anything to show where the lines are? Or is this all circumspection?
There was a neighbor across the street who said that he recently had his yard completely resurveyed and all of the lines moved. He said he lost a whole corner in one spot and gained a whole corner in another spot. So he said the lines are all over.
So Larry, hypothetically, if we deny the applicant, what would your basis be for ordering that the fence be taken down or not taken down if you don't have an up-to-date survey? Is an updated
The
survey?
surveyor actually drew the fence on the new survey.
So this surveyor came out and did a new survey after the fence was put up?
Yes.
And now that it matters, who hired the surveyor?
The neighbor,
No,
The applicant.
the applicant. And what was the determination? I don't see where it sits. I don't see where the fence sits relative to the property line. This looks like it's on the property line.
That's because to scale, it's only 0.7 and 0.8 feet off. So to scale, you're not going to see anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does show the
But
driveway.
he does mention the
That's
distances on
their
the front and
inside.
back side.
That what?
He does list on the
It's
survey
right there.
that distance.
Yeah, I see it.
See, it
Yep.
does show the
Highlighted.
Space.
Yep.
Now between the driveway and the fence.
Well, that's what he's saying, but then, you know.
The driveway's not on the line anyways, though, so.
Who's the
No,
surveyor?
driveway is on the line. Fence is 3 by 0.8, 3 by 0.7. So.
Do you have the
Yeah, I
full
think
survey
it's
map
safe.
or no?
Right.
Because this is just like a zoomed in, we have a copy of a zoomed in piece of it that
I
doesn't.
gave you a copy of it, right?
Mhm.
You have a copy of it.
to me, this is good, not, I don't know if your question or
Right, so
legitimacy of it, I mean.
So like they're saying, the driveway was 2 inches off of it.
I mean, especially since the applicant is supplying it.
Well, that's where I think the scale comes into play. Right? Yeah. That line drawn to scale is 2 foot wide.
Larry, how far did you say that the driveway was off the?
If you visually look at it today, before the snow, it looked like it was about this far off the edge of his driveway.
That's what I thought.
This
That's
is
what I
grass
thought.
area and then the fence.
Okay.
You said like a foot and a half or so.
Yeah, 1.5 to a
Yeah.
foot.
Cause it's like, you know, it's right.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? So which is it? Is it more than
Pavement.
0.7 off, or does the driveway not go to the property line?
I don't think.
The driveway does not go to the
Exactly.
property.
No, there's space, and there's a wood stake in there too, next to the chain link fence. I'm assuming that's property line, the wood stake.
This is the whole barn. Whole barn.
So do you got, questions you wanna, did we discuss this last, you wanna go with the
Yeah,
questions?
so we,
Forest sequin.
Yeah, let me see real quick, if you don't mind.
This is the only folder, sorry.
Oh, I know.
you good?
Yeah.
All right, so for the undesirable change,
Oh, wow.
we said no and minimal setback ask. Again, to the discussion that we were just having, it's supposed to be a foot, it's 7 to 8.7 or 0.8 off. So
It's 20 to 30% in terms of a
Somewhere
percentage.
in that. Cause it'd be 4.5 divided by 12, wouldn't it be?
well, this
No,
says,
because
I figured it out.
Forrest put it in
30%
decimals of a
on
foot.
this end,
Yeah.
20% on this end.
If we're gonna try to do the percentages, then we need, is this 8 inches or 0.8?
It's
of a
0.8
foot?
feet.
Okay, so then,
I did it precisely. At the back end, it's 20%, it's 2.4 inches. On the front end by the road, it's 3.6 inches or 30%.
You said that was 7 inches?
2.4.
You're saying it's 0.8.
so I still don't think it's substantial. I think in both instances it falls under the 30%, which we're only using as a in my mind, I will only be using that as a threshold for terminology. Not necessarily a contributing factor, but something to pin the terminology to.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we said no, minimal setback asked. Whether benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved, we said yes, there is sufficient space to move the fence back, however, the fence is already installed. Whether the variance requested is substantial, we said yes. Applicant is asking for 25% relief of setback. So I guess we're out in front of ourselves on that one. Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions? We said no, no environmental issues identified. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, yes. Fence was installed before a permit was requested and code was defined. And that's where we stopped because we weren't gonna all be in agreement and we were lacking detail.
So let me ask a philosophical question of all of you. If the fence wasn't up and you had the same public hearing last month with the same discussion among the neighbor and the same other circumstances, would you grant the variance or would you just say put it at a foot and grant the height variance? You grant,
That's exactly what
You
I
would need to
said.
grant it off the line because it would be put on correctly. It's already been done now it's, it's.
no, but what I'm saying is that if they desired to have the thing closer to the property line than we're supposed to because they, for whatever reason. So they came in and said, we want a 4-inch or 3-inch variance for distance going closer to the property line, and we want a height variance because we want to be able to shield a little bit more stuff because of the pitch of the ground. Would you have granted it? Or would you have said, just put it at a foot?
The criteria wouldn't qualify for it being less than a foot off the line. There's no basis.
Right.
It's
And
there now,
So the struggle that I have with it is I don't want to reward
Bad behavior.
not getting a permit. I really have a hard time, especially when there's a concern by the neighbor about the infringement. That's where I really get. I know there have been times when we've granted it when somebody put the cart before the horse and they came in, but in none of those instances was there ever any pushback from the neighboring property that's the one being offended. And the reason that I struggle with that is because, and I don't know if there's bad blood, good, I don't know the circumstances of this one because I wasn't here, and I'm kind of glad that I don't know all the ins and outs, because if I just look at it as the purpose of our code is to protect property owner A from property owner B who's doing work, who's doing development or destruction of their property. That's the whole purpose of the code. So we give relief when the code puts too many restrictions on the person who wants to develop their property. And we have the authority to grant relief if the strict application of the code would create an undue hardship, whatever, and it doesn't really hurt the properties around it. But if the property owner who's being infringed on specifically comes in with a complaint about the infringement, and we're gonna grant it because they put the cart before the horse, to me, that's fundamentally wrong. That's a big,
I'm with your argument up until the infringement. Only because 2 reasons. One, the variance that's being asked is still on the applicant's property. And the only infringement that neighbor is complaining about, because he has no problem with the fence as it sits there. He has no problem with the reasoning behind the fence, as he stated. His only complaint is that it infringes his ability to move his snow onto his neighbor's property. So as soon as he stated that, that lost all validity in my mind. Because now your complaint is you don't get to take your mess and push it over there.
Right.
That was his complaint. Ask him specifically.
It is in the minutes here, but yes.
Yeah, read the minutes.
Can I say something? Can I or no?
Yes, I'll let you.
So Victor, when he looked on the website to get a permit, we were gonna get a permit, we had no problems getting a permit. But when you look on the website if you wanna build a building, it says specifically on there that you need a permit. And then for other things that you need a permit, it says that you need a permit. But for a fence, it didn't say that. So we didn't think that we needed a permit. So we weren't doing it to,
Okay, yeah.
we weren't doing it to be bad. We were, it didn't say on it
Right.
to do,
Excuse me, but on our website, it had fence regulations, which was just our zoning code for fences, and it stated in there, all fences, 1 foot off the property line.
This same thing could happen with a property dispute. I think I know where my line is. I measure a foot off. Oh, geez, now it's only 6 inches. Well, I put up this beautiful fence. Now when the neighbor has a survey and he, pays for it, whatever, and I find that what do? Do I come in for a variance or do I have to move the fence?
When you grant the permit, do you approve where they put it?
Yes,
I think the town owns that one. I think in that kind of a circumstance, that if the applicant was granted a permit, then both the applicant and the neighbor would have beef with the town because
But the
permit
town
was
wouldn't
approved.
know if the pins are there, the marks there, the stakes are there, the old whatever, that's our line. And then he gets it surveyed and finds out, oh geez, it's not quite right. It's a few inches
when
off.
I get a survey and I grant a permit, and I measure to that property line, I approve it, or disapprove it, or tell them to get a variance. If they didn't need one before, I'd say, now you gotta get a variance. If the neighbor says, my survey says I own to here, his survey says I own to here, I'm out of it.
Right,
It's a dispute between surveyors.
Lawyers.
Right.
So that takes me right out of it. And that happens a lot.
But what do you do with the permit at that point if they're arguing about where the property line is? Do you hold the permit until it's
Then I
done?
tell them this happened down in Lakeport. I told the one
Surprising.
party, you had to stop with your fence until the 2 surveyors come up with an answer.
But when they have a fence, you don't go out and actually mark where the fence can be, You just tell them it's gotta be a foot off your property.
Correct.
You don't physically, say this is where it's gonna be. You just say in your permit.
Well, I do a site visit just to see where it's going. Sometimes there's trees there and all this other stuff.
But in the scenario
But
where
in a
there's,
scenario where I tell them to put it there, and then they call for the final, and I see that it's 8 inches over, and in that case, I would tell them, you put it too close, now you gotta get a variance.
Or move it.
Which nobody does.
the snow problem isn't going to be alleviated by moving the fence 5 inches.
well, we're not talking 5, we're talking 3.
3.5
I'm
and
just
2.
saying.
Plus he's supposed, plus he's supposed to plow away from
Strengthens
the
the point
property
even
line.
more.
What's that?
You're not supposed to plow onto it.
Right,
adjacent
anyways, right, you're not supposed to do that
he
anyway.
was doing that last year.
So,
So he's just got an angled plow to push it on his own side.
or snow blow or whatever.
I think we're looking too much at the snow. I think it goes back to more what Mike was saying, that, the code says it's gotta be a foot off, and the person that it's affecting is concerned about it, I think that's what matters, pushing the snow, what he gave the reason, he might have said that, but I think he's also got the right, that he does have the right to have a foot off the line.
Still can't use it.
Okay, so,
So we did all the questions, correct?
yep, we're done. So now it's just whether,
So what's the motion?
Do Brian can read it, or anybody can make a motion?
When I said bad behavior before, I wasn't implying,
Yeah.
I wasn't meaning to imply that you guys did it with any maliciousness or anything like that, or any willful knowledge that you were supposed to have a permit, but that does happen. There are circumstances in the community
Right.
where people do that kind of thing, and
Sure.
for my mind, I think, for me voting on this, I'm thinking about, I know everyone's individual, Cliff, but for me, it has a little bit to do with the consistency, the precedent, when we get one that's similar to this, but there's actual malice and people are trying to put the cart in front of the horse for those reasons.
okay.
Well, that's different.
Because I don't think that comes up in the questions.
Do we have any more questions, or can we?
Make a
all right.
motion, move to vote.
I make a motion that the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood, and I make a motion that the variance be approved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor of the application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
I'm gonna go with allowing it.
And I will go nay too.
3-2.
Okay, so 3-2, and it was passed.
I changed my mind. Well, the one thing I gotta tell you is, and this is outside of the scope of, our jurisdiction, as the zoning board of appeals. I don't know what your intention is with that property, but it needs some love and it needs some work.
Yes, we wanna live there. That's our goal. We wanna build a house there and we wanna live there.
When did you buy it? How long ago?
A couple years ago, I'm not sure the exact date. We came back from Rochester and we wanted to find something and we,
I knew it was for sale some time ago, that's, I wondered.
yeah.
That was one of my concerns, but that doesn't weigh into the fence scenario.
Yeah, just life keeps getting in
Yes, sir.
the way.
Like I said,
And then COVID happened, so we had to
Oh,
get,
that should be a little bit
you
easier.
know, we had to figure out wood and all that, so we bought a sawmill and we can't get logs, so we're just, hopefully this year will be better.
So that was another one of
we're gonna do it this year.
my
I'm saying that's what
reasons.
Mike can get it.
Well, my words of wisdom, not that they're worth much, is if you're gonna live there, you need to do something to amend relationships with a neighbor, and even though you have permission to leave that fence there, I would give serious thought to moving it. And it might be a step in building a relationship, because if you're gonna be living next to a person,
You don't wanna be
you're gonna have problems.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't think that would help it though. He doesn't seem like the,
Yep, and I understand.
Seems like
All
it's looking
right.
for a fight.
yes,
Best of luck to you.
thank you.
So,
Good luck.
Yeah, we're gonna have the
Terry
house
said-
way back. Way
okay, now we're gonna make you chop it down 4 inches, so you'll have to take it down anyway. So now we gotta decide on the height of the fence.
Alright, so last week we said fence provides, whether undesirable change would be produced in character of the neighborhood. Said no, fence provides definitive property line. Whether benefits sought by applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative. Yes, but not a determining factor. Whether the requested variance is substantial, no. They're asking for less than 10% relief. Does it have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental condition? No, no environmental issue identified. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created? Yes. Fence was installed before permit was requested and code was defined.
So, refresh me, because the fence, you're allowed 48 inches, and the fence in some spots are 52, or it's that way the whole way, just to keep it level. What was-
I think it's a 52 inch.
Just to keep it level, yeah. It looks like it, but it's.
Okay. And the thing is, I know from the pictures last month, the fence is basically already right on the ground. It's not just a matter of, dropping it down a couple inches can solve the problem,
Not to keep it level or to keep it straight.
Up 2 inches. Right, yeah.
Because I think the top links were like an inch or two above the top railing. Right, you follow me, you got the top pipe of the fence, but then the wire mesh went an inch or two above that top pipe, correct? We have pictures. Let me see,
The only thing I remember from last month was that there, when it did have to go up to maintain the level, they created space on the bottom.
Can I ask a silly question?
What?
What's the setback for the fence?
What?
No, I mean,
We just did that.
from the road. If
Oh,
there's no
yeah.
residence, what's the rear yard on a corner lot? How is this running along the driveway?
It stops right,
What do you mean?
It's right here.
This is a corner lot. Is there a residence on the corner lot?
We did discuss
This
this.
is Bushnell.
Right.
This is where the little,
Is that a residence?
You want to-
it could
Yeah, I
have been
remember.
at one point.
So if this is a residence, then the only place that they're allowed to put a
Yeah, okay, I
fence
thought it was-
is here. You can't put a fence up along this driveway. At all.
Why?
The barn structure is not the residence.
No.
If you're saying that this was a residential structure, the rear yard on a corner lot is this.
There isn't
This
there isn't a residential structure.
This is front yard.
6-foot fence.
This is 4 foot.
This is for.
It's only a 4-foot fence?
Yes, and they're looking for 4 inches of.
4-foot chain link fence. 4-foot chain link fence.
So it's just
And it's actually 52 inches, right? Instead of 48, it's 52. Is that what you said? I mean, it's just a little bit higher than the 4.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
That's
not
what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see one.
Unless you have more questions or discussion, I'm ready to make a motion on the height. Because
Yeah. Fire away.
it's a chain link fence,
fire away.
so the sight lines and all that, like,
You're gonna have these back. Okay, you're making a motion?
I make a motion that the applicant does outweigh the detriment and the variance should be approved.
I'll second
We have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor of granting the variance signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Alrighty. You don't have to move a fence.
Snow load goes right through
Jeff,
that kind of fence. Goes right through.
Unless you're plowing.
Snowboard.
it probably will too.
You know,
If you want to be really difficult, you put a snow fence about 3 feet the other side.
No,
Okay,
no.
Then all the drifts will blow
No.
and land right on the driveway.
Take care of the landscaping on both sides of the fence, and that might go away.
the biggest problem.
But don't walk on his property when
See,
you're
that's the
doing that.
thing, yeah, if we had to move it, it's gonna be even harder to, cause
'Cause
it's
he's gonna be
right
a
on his
stickler.
property,
Yeah.
his driveway is his property, that's the line.
He's gonna plow his driveway the way he's gonna plow his driveway. He's gonna end up damaging that fence.
Yes,
And then you guys are gonna end up having bigger problems.
yeah.
Not involving me.
Not involving anybody else in the room, except for maybe Maris.
You want a job?
Alright, well, thank you. Alright, there's 3 of us here the last month to look at the minutes.
I've got a law school question for you, Miss Maris.
I don't know if I'll know the answer.
A person gets a lot line adjustment map done. Okay?
Do we have anything for next month?
Yeah, so
From the
there's
planning
two
board.
things, I'm not sure what they are right off
Signed
the
by the
top of
board
my head,
Okay.
but I'll get everything to you.
Applicant fails to have it filed with the county.
Can we finish voting on the minutes?
Yep.
please?
Well, he's figured he doesn't have any say in it, so he doesn't have.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't,
so
I don't have to vote on this,
so
it's your
that's
problem.
Discuss amongst yourselves while he's just white noising it.
So do we have a motion on the
John
minutes?
statute. So you-
Minutes as submitted.
We have a
10
motion
days
by
later, they
Terry
offer
and a
it
second by
For
I'll
five.
second.
Brian. All in favor, signify by saying
I'm
aye.
happy. 60 days. But within 60 days of what?
I thought this training worked really good. I'm wondering if we could do it, since we do have some public hearings and we will be meeting next month. I was wondering if we could do this again at 6 o'clock. Theoretically, we're supposed to have, what, 4 hours a year?
Yeah.
Has the state ever enforced or cracked down on anything like that?
It's not the state that would crack down, it would be complaints from people within the community,
Really?
and it would look badly on the elected officials who appoint us. And if somebody really, if we made a denial that somebody really didn't like and they were really on their game,
They'd say, hey,
they
you better.
could
Hold on,
sue the
hold on.
town, they could.
Somebody adjourn the meeting before.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay.